Welcome to another episode of Brothers Arguing Sports. I'm Zav. Across the Zoom is Chidi, and we got Niles back. Niles he's had a little injury, little surgery with his shoulder. His phone went missing for a while, so he's had a lot of action going on, right, Niles?
Yep, absolutely. But it's good to be back. It's good to be back on the camera.
Yep, it's good, and you've been alive on the text chat, so I know you're keeping up with everything. Very simple question. How good is Victor Wembanyama going to be? TD, go first.
I think Wemby is going to disappoint a lot of people. I mean, the way he's being described right now as a top 10 all time, I think is just incredibly unfair to this kid, what he's doing. And let's just say a few things. You look at the few big men that dominated as soon as they came into the league. They all had something. Shaq did 4 years of college, and he was 3 years of college, but he was already the strongest, biggest, heaviest guy in the league. You look at Kareem when he came in and dominated. He already won 3 straight college championships, and he had the hook shot, which was one of the greatest shots in history. You look at the Admiral. You look at when the Admiral came in. Niles, he was massive. Go look at pictures of David Robinson. This guy is a truck. He is a monster at 7 foot. Listen, I think Wemby is going to come in, and I think he'll be a good player, but I put him in the category of the Yao Mings and the Karl Anthony Towns. Like, do you consider Yao Ming and Karl Anthony Towns a bust? No. Are they top 10 players like Victor is being, projected? Under those lights, I think he's going to disappoint under that judgment. But I see him being, at least for the first few years of his career, because the kid is 19 and he's playing in France. A lot of guys, it takes 5-6 years. But listen, Yao Ming and Karl Anthony Towns, they even had more than I think Victor has, because Yao Ming at least had a buttery jump shot. There's clips of Yao Ming practicing, and he just hits like 50 out of 50. And Karl Anthony Towns, did you see him win that 3-point contest last year? It was unbelievable. Shaq had the power. I think Victor is coming in without an offensive weapon. Kareem had the skyhook. And I think he's really going to disappoint on offense. He shot 27% from 3 in the French league on the
29.2.
Fine. In a French league, and he's a teenager. I think defensively, right off the bat, he's going to be excellent because of the wingspan and the height, and that'll translate right away. But I think offensively, I mean, we all saw that video of him with the Spurs. I know it's just a shoot-around, but do you think Steph Curry in his life has ever missed 12 straight mid-range shots with no one around? I mean, you think about it. Giannis, I could see missing it, but what does Giannis have that Victor doesn't? Giannis is a truck. You look at these big guys that dominate right away. They have a skill. Towns can drill the 3. Yao could at least had a buttery shot. Victor is coming in without any real edge. He's skinny as a rail. He's a terrible shooter, and he has no post moves. I think he's going to disappoint. He's going to get his points through rebounds and putbacks and stuff like that, but I think he's going to disappoint. I'm going to end up putting him in the range of the Yao Mings and the Karl Anthony Towns, which is good players, but not top 20 all time.
All right, Niles, TD laid it down. Do you agree with him?
Absolutely not. I have to disagree because I feel like we're undervaluing the IQ of Victor Wembanyama compared to other players that have been coming out of France or internationally or at that age or at that height. Victor is another unicorn. We really have not truly seen anything like what he does at that height. I'm surprised that you're saying this about Wembanyama when you, as a Knicks fan, had Kristaps Porzingis as a rookie and saw how quickly he developed as a 7'3" guy who could shoot and handle the ball.
Yeah, but
and a good
Let him finish. Let him finish.
Okay.
Great defender. I think Victor is just a different guy. I think he's in the great system to be a different guy because, like you mentioned, Victor Wembanyama is already a very solid defender. He has the tools to be a truly elite defender in the NBA, switchable 1 through 5, great shot blocker, good hands. And with the Spurs, is if you should watch Dejounte Murray's interview. The defense is going to get you playing time, and the Spurs system is going to take it from there. They're going to develop some area where you're going to develop a comfort zone shooting the basketball, whether it's the free throw line or the corner 3 or the pull up 2, getting to the line. He's got a little bit of everything. He's not great at one thing on offense, but like he's a very smart player, and I think in that system he's going to learn how to become more efficient and a great passer. And I think that was the best situation for him. Now, if we're talking about Houston or another place where like it's a dumpster fire and you're expecting him to just ball hog and dominate, that's where I think he wouldn't excel as much. But Victor is a different type of guy. He's not like all world talent like Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller, the great shooter that he is coming out of Alabama. Like this guy here is more of a beat you with his mind type of like guy.
But
So,
how
like,
good do you see him becoming?
I can see him becoming an elite playmaker. I can see him becoming an all-star for sure, given the way he thinks the game, the way he prepares his body. I pray to God that he stays healthy at that height. And I've been really impressed with what I see in terms of how he prepares his body and takes care of his body and tries to get stronger. But yeah, I think this guy could be like the hype that we heard about LeBron, Ben Simmons, like the way that, like in terms of the way they see the floor. I see that same thing, that same type of skill with him. And yeah, I could see all-star ceiling for sure. Potential superstar.
All-star or all-time top player?
I think he can be an all-star. I think as of right now, I don't know about superstar just yet.
Okay.
But like, because it's really hard to see with these international guys coming into the NBA, I need to see him play against NBA players before I can even really make a guess on that.
Well,
I think
that's
he can
the
be
thing.
a very smart player and a very good player just off his IQ and skills.
Well, Luca came in kind of at the same age. Same thing. He played in Europe, although Luca actually played in a better league. He played in Spain, which is a much better league. They came in at the same age. And Luca, who has an NBA body, Luca is massive. He's got that like just girth, strength. He just bodies you down. And even him in his rookie year, he put up 20 points a game. So I think expecting like 20 points out of Victor, I think is just too much to ask from someone as skinny as him. I just don't see where he's going to dominate. Like, okay, Giannis can't shoot either. Oh, I mean, did you see that Spurs warm-up? What'd you think of that, Niles? Those bricks. I was shocked.
I didn't want to take it too seriously. It didn't look super impressive. I don't really get why they even posted the video or why they
Niles, it was a live stream. It was a live stream. They didn't know. They didn't know he was gonna miss.
Yeah.
Well, here's where to me, it's not about because 20 points a game, 15 points a game, because today's NBA scoring is way up. All right. There were 6 players who had over 30. Back when Jordan played, he was the only one. So to me, it's not about how many he's going to score. But here's where I tend to agree with TD. I personally don't. When I saw him play, he plays a face-up guard game.
Yeah.
And he gets points on alley-oops. He gets points on, in the paint. But when you give him the ball, he faces up like a guard. And I don't like that out of someone that thin and that tall. I think an NBA defender is going to get in his kitchen and not let him move around and push him around. And he's not a good enough shooter and that's where I see a weakness is we all agree defensively with those long arms and that athletic and Miles, I'm glad you touched about the IQ. He's got a great head on his shoulders and that's going to count. And we all agree defensively, he's going to be good. But here's
excellent defensively.
Yeah.
Unbelievably good defense.
But
I have a comparison when you're done, by the way, too.
The only thing I was going to say is, Niles, do you really see him, the really, truly great players, at the end of a big playoff game, they could take over and they could be unstoppable. Do you see that out of Wembanyama?
I see it in the making. I need to see the dog in him first. Like, I need to see that he's able to, like, to bark with the big dogs. Basically, I need to see that he can talk his talk, that he doesn't fold when there's like trash talkers in his ear or pressure from the fans or physicality or traps from the other team. Like I need to see him. I need to see his response before I can talk about his toughness and all that. But the comparison I really want to see, like I want him to be able to space the floor, because what I've seen from him shooting wise, like I've seen him pull from the parking lot over in the European leagues shooting the ball. I'm not saying he's a sniper, but he has the ability, kind of like Kristaps Porzingis, where he was able to shoot a few feet behind the 3-point line. As a tall player, that's an advantage because it feels a lot closer to the rim. I want to see him dominate inside. I want to see him be aggressive inside, kind of like a Giannis combination. And I don't mean the physical dominance that Giannis brings, but like Giannis always envisioned himself being a great passer as well, which is where I see him separates himself again among all those other big athletes like him. Giannis sees the floor really well. He's actually a very, very good passer for a guy his height. He played a lot of point guard overseas coming into the United States. Giannis has played that. And I want to see Victor. I've seen Victor, the way he can handle the ball, and I really want to see him showcase that a lot too. I think he can be a great passer just like Giannis can.
Well, you know what? You know who his favorite NBA player is, who he kind of models his game after. This is another reason why I'm not happy with him. It's KD. KD. Now, this is what, and I hear you talking. You're like, he can pull up three. The guy is 7'5", and his go-to move is a pull-up three. This to me, you know what I want his favorite player to be? I would follow the Wemby hype. If Wemby said, my favorite player of all time is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and his hook shot. Now, if he spent his time working on that hook shot, then I would be saying all the hype he's getting, he could do. Because if his go-to move is a hook shot at 7'5", all of a sudden, everything we're saying, like Xavier said, now all of a sudden you have a go-to move in the fourth quarter. Now all of a sudden you can get your comfortable, easy 6 points a quarter. That's what Shaq always talked about, that 6, 12, 18, 24. That's how you get your 25, 30 points a game. You need to create your own shots. If he had that, and just like we saw with Dirk, the 1 year he finally won, he upped his point blank range. We saw Jokic in the finals this year. He upped his point blank range. He just went to work down low in the post, backed you up, turned you in, laid it up, flicked it in. I mean, that's how Shaq dominated. That's how bigs have to dominate. All these bigs had something. Shaq had the crab move. He had the baby hook. He had when he swiveled his shoulder around and almost knocked people's jaws off. Kareem had the dream shake. Timmy had the turnaround bank shot. They all.
I just got a question for Niles. I just want to jump in there.
Yeah.
Because Niles, you brought up KP, Kristaps Porzingis, right? Big hype, top draft pick. I think he was number 3 overall for the Knicks.
Yeah.
He's not a dominant player in this league. He's not a dominant player. He's a good player, but he's not a dominant player.
I think he's a good player. I think he's a hell of a good player, but I don't think he's a dominant player.
That's my point.
He has an all-star case when he's like at his best.
Yeah.
But he's not a dominant player. I just like the flashes from Porzingis at his best. And if you combine that with some of the skills that Giannis brings to the table, that's the ceiling for Victor Wembanyama. That was the point I wanted to make. I want to see
but
that
I don't
combination.
Think Giannis is a freak. He's a strong, athletic guy who you can't stop when he goes to the hoop. Yeah. To me, he's more LeBron.
I was comparing
than
just
Wembanyama.
His court vision, his ability to handle the ball. I was taking those skills out of Giannis. I like the way that he envisioned Magic Johnson, Kevin Durant, give or take, but Magic Johnson more so the way he could run the floor, see you guys ahead of him, make that outlet pass, get to the open man. I like that skill set from Giannis, and I expect to see that out of Wembanyama as well with the way he handles the ball, and the offense he's going to be in San Antonio. He's going to have more shooting around him. He'll be able to dribble and drive, kick out to Keldon Johnson or Devin Vassell or Trey Jones. Those are solid basketball.
You want him on the perimeter, Niles?
I think you can run sets where it can be like him around the elbow area. That's where I believe he can be most dangerous. I think you get him 3-point shots with pick and pop if you need to, but
he's not a good 3-point shooter.
Spurs don't operate the Spurs don't operate heavy from the 3-point anyway. They are a heavy, like similar to Phoenix. They rely on a lot of mid-range isolation baskets, a lot of screen setting, pick and roll. But like, it's not like he's going to be bringing the ball up. I'm not saying that. I think you can run half-court sets for Victor at the high post, like where he can drive to the paint, face a double team, kick out to a corner three. Like I said, the Spurs do have good 3-point shooting. They don't take a lot of threes, and they don't rely on that. They just look for good shots. But
Well,
I think the gel in the development of Victor with those guys could be like a good fit.
I think the fact that he's on the Spurs, I think is heaping way too much expectation on him. Because I think people in their heads, they're like, okay, they got the number 1 pick, the Admiral, monster success.
Yeah.
Then they got the number 1 pick, Duncan, monster success. And I think he's just getting naturally shoot in to be the third coming of what Admiral and Duncan were. And I just don't think he has what those guys
offensively doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Zav, I was wrong about the Admiral. He actually won a scoring title.
I told you, yeah, he won on the last day of the season. I think he scored 70 points.
And Zav, you look at their muscles. These guys are just monster.
Yeah.
And Wemby, to me, the only comparison we really have of him is like, that's good, Niles. KP, man, not that great. A very good player. Karl Anthony Towns, a very good player. Yao Ming, Dikembe Mutombo, very good players. Tall, lanky, skinny people. I put him more in that class of tier 2 all-time bigs. But I think it's wrong, and he will not be in the category of the Hakeem Olajuwons, the Shaqs, the Kareems. I can't put him there because they all had strength and or an incredible go-to move. He has neither, so I put him in tier 2.
All right, now his last word.
Yeah, I'm not expecting him to be Olajuwon like exactly. I mean, that would be a hell of a ceiling to look at. I feel like he's mobile enough to put up numbers like him and skilled enough, but like I think I'm just expecting a very solid all-around all-star basketball player, potentially superstar in his own right out of Victor Wembanyama. I don't compare him to anyone. Like I said at the beginning, my main point was that we really have never seen anything like Victor Wembanyama, much like we're seeing things like Shohei Ohtani in MLB. Like we're not seeing like this type of skill set out of a guy that high or like these type of players before. These 2K
you think he'll get a ring? You think he'll win a ring in his first 10 years?
Well, that whole
so
depends
hard
on the team. It's impossible to say that.
Yeah,
but I think
impossible.
Yeah, and we all agree though. We think he's going to be very elite defensively. We all
He's
agree.
going to be awesome on defense. Awesome on defense.
Yep. All right.
His wingspan is just out of this world. There's a clip of him. He takes 2 steps. He can get from the 3-point line to the rim. It's unbelievable.
All right, guys. Good stuff. Great to see you back, Niles, and we'll be knocking these episodes out. Have a good day, everybody.
Sounds
Take
good,
it
guys.
easy, boys.